Welcome to today's program brought to you by the U.S. Botanic Garden. My name is Courtney Burris, the online education specialist with the Learning and Outreach team here at the Garden. We are so happy to have you joining us for creamy, dairy-free spinach dip and homemade chips. It is an online demonstration with our very own Kendra Hazel of Green Things Work. Kendra Hazel is an herb enthusiast, urban garden educator, and plant-based chef. She is the CEO and creator of Green Things Work, a plant-based wellness brand with a meaningful passion to live. It is Hazel's continued vision to educate, inspire, and show people how to live a healthier life with a holistic approach. Her company's core values focus on wellness, quality, intentionality, passion, and connection. Through her work, Kendra aims to educate and introduce people to a new way of living a healthy life by showing them with hands-on experience, such as farm-to-table dining events, hands-on wellness workshops, cooking demonstrations, and garden installations. Welcome, Kendra.
Thank you, Courtney, and good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. That was an amazing bio. I won't try not to repeat everything you just said, but my name is Kendra Hazel. I am the owner and founder of Green Things Work. Like Courtney said, Green Things Work is a plant-based and holistic brand born and raised out of DC. I'm really passionate around cultivating experiences and giving people a new outlook of healthy eating. As I transitioned from eating meat and dairy about 10 years ago, I've just been on a journey and a quest to find healthy and comfort meals that I loved growing up and new things, and also just bringing people in around me who I love and experiencing and showing them that they can experience healthy eating and still enjoy it. So I'm really, really excited to do this recipe with you all. I love spinach dip. I grew up eating spinach dip. It was one of those appetizers that I would always get with my grandmother growing up. And so sadly, as I transitioned to not eating any dairy, it was a thing that I lost while eating out in restaurants. But one day, I just tried it and I really enjoyed it. And I want to show you guys. I don't know if anybody watches football. It's football season, so this would be a great appetizer to make while the game is on, or if you're having family over, or just like a really good comfort meal just for yourself on a Friday night. And that's why I chose this recipe, because it can be made for you on your own, friends, family, anybody who loves dairy, who does not love dairy. It's just like a good staple to know how to make. So we are going to get started. And before we get started, I would love if everybody can pull out their phone or their computer. And I'm going to give you guys my social media handle. I do a lot of content and just showing out how to cultivate different vegan recipes. If you're in the DC, Maryland, or Virginia area, I do a lot of public and private events where I do culinary classes, or I'm popping up with food or my beverages, or just like my products that I have. I have a seasonal tea line and capsules. And so all those things, Courtney will give you guys the website link. But if you guys are able to follow, I don't know if you guys can see my website, my Instagram, if you're on it, is Green Things Work. My email is greenthingswork@gmail.com, and also my website is Green Things Work. So all things Green Things Work. And yeah, just a little snippet of why I even chose the name Green Things Work. I was in college, had to take a business course. I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing around anything that related. I studied health science, so it was completely different from my traditional course load. But in the class, we had to cultivate a business plan and a business model of something that we were passionate about. I was probably 6 months to a year, if that, into my vegan journey of just retraining my thoughts around what it meant like for me to be healthy and healthy eating. And so, I don't know, Green Things Work kept popping up in my head. And I was like, okay, but why do you want to call it Green Things Work? And the reason why was because all things green really work and heal your body. And so I didn't think it would turn into an actual business. Transforming 6 months later when I graduated, it actually became a business. And I did a couple events while I was in school in Florida, and I brought that back home to DC, and I have been thriving in my business. Great things work since. And so I love to tell that story because I didn't know where I was leading my business into or developing, and I'm living it almost 10 years later. So really excited, but enough of the talking. We are going to get started. As Courtney mentioned, I love interactive experiences. So I'm going to ask some questions. Courtney will throw out some polls. I would love if you guys ask questions in the chat. And as she mentioned, we will do a Q&A at the end of everything. So I have 2 cameras going. I have this main camera, and then I also have the second screen, which you guys see with that blue pot. And yeah, we'll get started. I'll clean the camera off just a little bit so it can be a little bit more clear, but you guys will see me on both or just on one, depending on what we're doing. So, and hopefully you guys can hear me okay. So we are going to get started. So first things first, I am a sucker. I'm a fan. I'm a lover of cast iron pans. So we are going to be using this cast iron blue. I love color, and just really, really good for your iron. Really good for just minerals in general, and it's not toxic or giving your body aluminums if you were losing aluminum pans or anything of that such. So I really enjoy that. Also have this other cast iron that we'll be using. This is from the Spice Suite. If you are in the DMV area, you may or may not know about the Spice Suite. It's a Black-owned company that has cookware, spices, and everything else in between. So I know you guys got the recipe in the email, and if not, just don't worry, you will have that access to that. So first things first, I am just going to turn on my stove. Well, first things first, I'm going to preheat my oven to 400 degrees because we are going to be making tortilla chips, and we're also going to be making spinach dip. And before we get started, I want to hear any spinach dip lovers, and if you are, do you prefer to have tomatoes on top of your spinach dip or not? Let me know. Personally, I enjoy tomatoes on top of my spinach dip. I don't know. I just feel like that's all I was seeing. That's all I've seen that was brought to when I went to restaurants. But I had a little controversial conversation that some people don't. And I'm just curious to hear if that is a good thing to have tomatoes in there or not. So let me know on the poll. And yeah, we'll reveal it. I can't hear you, Courtney.
Because my mic was off. But yeah, I'm looking at these polls, honey, and it's looking like about 45% said no, 30% said yes. It depends. I wonder what it depends on. Drop in the chat what it depends on.
Yeah, does it depend on if it's a firm tomato? Do you want the seeds? Do you don't want the seeds? Do you want it cooked in? I don't like it cooked in. I just like it on top. But I am curious. So if a lot of people are leaning towards no tomatoes, I'm not going to add it to this recipe.
Yeah, the no tomatoes won today.
Good to know.
All right.
So I have my cast iron pot on about 7. I want to do a medium-high heat. And I'm just going to add some, this is grapeseed oil. I'm just going to add some oil in there. And we're going to let it heat up. And then we're going to get started. Yeah. Again, take some notes. This is a really great recipe to make now that it's football season, or just like a comfort meal for a Saturday, Friday night. And if you guys do make this, don't hesitate to tag me, to email me, to let me know how it went. Let me know if you liked it or didn't like it, but I think you will like it. And yeah, it'll be good. So we got our oil in here. We're going to give it a few more seconds, and then I'm going to add the onion and garlic. And I just wanted to show you guys that it wasn't too much stuff to prep for today's recipe. Everything was pretty simple. But I already, can you see? Let me turn the light down. All right, I'll turn it back up. But here are some small diced onions. And the reason why you want it small diced is because you want it to cook really, really fine. And you don't want to necessarily eat cooked onions in your spinach dip, or at least to know that it's truly in there and biting into an onion. So I cut it really small, and we're going to saute it down. And then it's going to be in the mix with the coconut milk, with the spinach, and it's going to be really great. For this recipe today, I did not use artichoke. You can. I don't truly 100% love the texture of it, but I don't mind cooking it in this dish as well. And if I do, I'll put it in the I'll strain it out the can, or you can get it fresh, but I typically use the can. I'll strain it out the can, put it in the food processor, and really pulse it until it's really, really fine and small, just because I don't love the texture of it. But for today, we're not going to use it. And for that reason, this is like a really simple meal. Maybe you have most of these items in the house already. Maybe you don't, and it's easy to grab. But yeah, that was my concept. I love to cook things where, you probably already have all the items in the house. So we're going to just test an onion to see if it's ready. Can you guys see it bubbling? Can you guys see it? Let me turn the light down. Hopefully you guys can see. So I put one in there and it is cooking really well. You should be able to hear it. Man, I'm an onion girl. I love onions. Some of you may look and say, that's a lot of onions. And some people may say that's not enough. I just overly love onions. I think it brings out a lot of flavor in whatever dish you're making. I love also garlic, shallots. You can do a trio combination. You can do a one-off, or you can do a double. It's really up to your preference, and just have fun with it. So we are going to let our onions just go. You want to have them spread out as much as possible so that they can all cook evenly. We are looking for a translucent color. We are looking for a fragrant smell. And again, at this point, you can add your garlic, you can add your shallots, or you can just do straight onion as I'm doing today. On the recipe, I did add garlic. It's really up to your preference. And I love that that's the beauty in cooking. You can switch up the recipe. You can take away things one time you make it. You can add on. It's really when you find your groove in it, how you want to do it. And I do know that the camera is a little bit smoky on this, on the pot. I don't want to add the fan on because it might take away from my, you all being able to hear me, but just bear with me. And I'll be sure to bring the pot up to the camera as I can. I'm going to rotate just a little bit so you guys can see me. All right, hope that's fine. Perfect. Okay. So just cooking the onions. It is turning a little bit translucent. And when I say translucent, it's becoming a little bit more yellow, a little bit more see-through. It's not so white and opaque as it was when it's completely raw. So I'm just cooking that in, all while the oven is on 400. That's going to help us set and be ready for our tortilla chips. And we're also going to put our spinach dip in the oven just for a second to let it get crispy on the top. Again, my preference. And you guys will find what works best for you. We'll make it on here on the stove. And if you want to stop there, you can. Again, I prefer to have like a crispy top. And so I'm just going to put it on broil or put it in the oven just for a few seconds after it's all said and done. Okay, so we have our onions. Cook this for about 3 minutes. You could keep going, but for time purposes, I'm going to stop here. And I'm going to start to add some of our other ingredients. So, I don't know if you guys are a coconut milk lover. This is a really great alternative to creamy and dairy things when maybe you're making a curry dish. Maybe you are making a soup. Maybe you're making some sort of dessert or anything like that. Coconut milk can be your friend. But the trick about coconut milk is it tastes like coconut, obviously. And so depending on what recipe you're making, you want to manipulate the flavor just a little bit. And so we have a few spices that we'll add in and some veggie broth that we'll add in just to take away a little bit from the coconut flavor. So I have 2 cans of coconut milk. I'm going to add them in here. You see, got a little quiet on us. So the coconut milk will cook. Yep. So I'm adding 2 cans because I want a lot of spinach dip. If it's just you, maybe you add 1.5. Maybe you add 1. Again, when you are cooking, you will find your rhythm with it. And I do just recommend you starting off slow and then add it in, because you may say, oh, this is a lot. But like me, like I said, I'm looking forward to eating this. I'm going to make a lot of it. So that was can number 1 with the onions. I'm going to add can number 2, maybe about halfway of that. And then we are going to turn the heat up just a little bit because we want everything to cook together. And then in like a minute, I'm going to add my veggie broth. So traditionally, veggie broth can be in liquid form and you can pour it in. I'm just using a paste, which I prefer. And the way that this paste works is you add liquid to it. And so the coconut milk is the liquid. And again, I'm adding veggie broth because I just want to cut the coconut milk flavor just a tad bit. Let me turn this light down. Yeah. I'm going to cut down the coconut milk flavor just a tad bit because I want it to be savory more than sweet. And plus, we're going to add cheese, and that's going to give it that creamy flavor as well. All right. I'm just playing with lighting. It's super, super bright today, but I want to make sure you guys can see everything nicely. Courtney, let me know if anybody's in the chat saying, turn the light on or turn it off. Like I said, I'm just playing around with it so you guys can see it to the best of your ability. All right, so you guys can see the smoke coming up. Everything is merging together really, really well. Maybe what I can do is take this phone off the tripod. Uh-oh, 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go.
You're all good. I mean, there are some questions in the chat. So while you're getting the pan back up, we can ask a couple questions. Is that cool with you, Kendra?
Yes.
Okay. And please let us know if you've already answered these, but let's take a look at, can you add any other plant-based milk?
I believe that you can, but what you want to make sure is that it's not made with vanilla. I would say go for a unsweetened flavor. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a almond milk or a hemp milk. I would say maybe you can also do cashew. I think, yeah, you can do an alternative milk as long as it's not vanilla. So you don't want it to be a sweet thing. You want it to be more so savory.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that tip when you said add the vegetable broth to kind of cut that sweet. And now I don't know if people like sweet spinach. I don't think I don't think I should ask that question.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys eat sweet spinach dip?
I like everything. It's ridiculous. My palate is just very much unacceptable. So let me ask this question. About your coconut milk, we got a couple questions here. Should you use full fat or reduced fat coconut milk?
I don't think that it matters because it's all going to break down and cook together. Okay. In fact, today I'm using light coconut milk.
Okay. Because that was another question about light coconut milk. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. And we have some folks in the chat. They said I can see great.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Awesome. All right. So and Courtney, you can everybody keep the questions coming.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you guys see, the coconut milk is starting to boil. That's what we want. So now I'm just going to add a really large tablespoon of the veggie broth. Again, this is a paste. You can still do the same thing with the liquid, but with the liquid, you just want to add less so it's not too runny. because you want your mixture to thicken up for the spinach dip. So I'm doing this with one hand, but just trying to get it off the spoon.
Yeah, doing a fine job. Is this, if we wanted to make it kind of spicy, is this spicier? Is this the step that we should do it, or should we wait till a little later?
No, this would actually be the perfect time to do some heat. I would say for heat, you can do. They have like chipotle peppers in the can, and you can use you can mash up a chipotle pepper and or just use the like the liquid from it. You can also do fresh, maybe a fresh jalapeno, and if you want to do fresh, I would add that in and cook it when I did like the onions and the garlic.
Okay. So maybe the step before, kind of put it in with the onions and garlic and not directly into.
Just so that it can take most of the flavor and let it cook down.
Okay. The heat that you're on right now, is it still on medium high?
I actually just turned it down. So originally I had it on 7. Right now I have it on like 4.
Okay.
This pot in particular cooks really, really deep and fast. And so just train of thought, I went high and I would just go down to a little bit lower to like 4 or 5.
Okay.
But you guys see that it's boiling. Try not to get too close so you can still see. But everything is cooking together. We have our onions in there, our coconut milk, and our veggie stock. And so now what we're going to do is add our cheese. So this is some vegan mozzarella cheese. I know, crazy times we're in. There's vegan mozzarella cheese. But it's really good. And I prefer to find cheese that has no soy or gluten in it. Nut cheese is fine. I just think for the way that I cook for people and for myself, I do stay away from nuts if I can, because people have nut allergies. But there's a couple of good brands out here. And I really like this brand or this kind of cheese because it melts, and you guys will see as it starts to thicken up in the pot. Uh-oh, we still good on the camera? What's going on?
Yeah, we're good. We just did a little zoom in because I think we're so curious about how the cheese melts, because that's the fun part of vegan cheese, right? Wondering how it's going to melt down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm playing around with the camera. It was supposed to be on a tripod, but I said no. Let me try to just get a better view for you guys.
Oh yeah, we're making it happen this Saturday.
All right, so you guys, again, this is on level 4 of heat. You see that things are starting to slow down. Things are thickening up. I'm just going to add some more cheese in there. I'm going to save some cheese on top because that's important. We want it to be cheesy all around. And
I know that folks are probably wondering, is somebody in the chat now? Since we're a government institution and we cannot endorse specific brands, what should we look for though? Like, let's say that we found a brand and we're thinking about it. I know you had mentioned some of the things to look for, some of the things to not, to make sure it doesn't have. You mind refreshing our memories on that?
Yes, that's a great question. So I would look for things that are gluten-free and soy-free. I would look for things that has less ingredients. Maybe the majority of ingredients are pea protein, flour. Maybe it's just like spices like onion powder, garlic powder. Maybe it's from chickpeas. It really just depends. But for me, a rule of thumb with anything that I'm eating and consuming, I want to be able to identify all the ingredients in there and make sure that they're usable and I just can resonate with what it is. I don't really want to have to read 50 ingredients, and I don't want to have to look up every single ingredient. So the more you can identify what it is, the best that is.
Yeah. And I'm sure folks in the chat, if you have like any recommendations that have worked well for you, there's no shame in dropping it into the chat. We just can't, but if there are things that have been working for you, why not share?
Yeah. Why not? All right, you guys see it's bubbling. It's getting a little bit thicker. That's what we want. So we got all this base in here. This is the base of our spinach dip, but what are we missing? Two important things. We are missing our spinach and our cream cheese. Crazy, right? How are we going to do that without the spinach and the cream cheese? But we are. All right, I'm just going to let me get the spinach out the freezer. So you guys can use fresh spinach. I don't know what it is, but I really love to cook with frozen spinach. I think, especially when I'm using it in like a soup or a stew, I just appreciate the way that it's not so watery and it allows everything to just soak up how it needs to. So bear with me. I'm going to put this phone down. I'll bring it back up so I can get the spinach.
Okay, and we have some questions in the chat here. We would like to know, let me see, how does non-dairy cheese compare in terms of salt?
In terms of salt?
In terms of salt. They're saying that each teaspoon of broth paste usually already has quite a bit of daily RDA, and dairy cheese often has a fair amount. So we're just trying to gauge the total salt intake here.
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't know 100%. I don't want to give off no false information, but I would say the dairy cheese that I use isn't salty. Like if I'm using cheese, vegan cheese, I'm sorry, I still need to like add some salt to it, and I use sea salt or Himalayan.
Okay.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's just something for us to think about, right? Because when we're thinking about good stuff and like what we're giving up and like what we're taking in, salt is certainly something to consider.
Yes,
I know I did not consider it until the question was asked. Like, oh man, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and you're right. Like typically, veggie stock does have a lot of sodium in it, so that's something you want to just look for when you're looking for your brand. Or maybe you make your own. You can do that too. Just needs a lot of.
That is a good way to try to control these variables. Make it at home. That's why we have these lovely cooking demonstrations.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So you guys see that our mixture is, sorry, y'all. Okay. Thickening up just a little bit, or a lot of it for that matter. So now we're ready for our spinach. Again, I'm using frozen spinach. That's just my preference. We can use fresh. This is organic whole leaf spinach. Sometimes they have them already cut up. Because we're using spinach dip, let's just keep it whole. And then we'll just add the rest in here. There is no limit to how much spinach you want to add in here because this is frozen. It will thaw out in here and just cook out. And so once the spinach is pretty much in there, we're going to add our cream cheese, let that cook for a second. And then we are going to cut up our tortillas and prep that because we're going to make some tortilla chips. And while we're on that subject, I want to know, do people prefer bread, like toasted bread that's cut up for their spinach dip, or do you guys prefer tortilla chips? Let me know.
Okay, here we go.
Let me know.
I'm going to submit mine. All right, what we got going on?
So I'm going to just turn this heat up just a little bit so that
we neck and neck. 47% and 47%. And then there's a couple of folks that are like, I want it on something totally different.
So for the total different people, what's the total?
I know. What?
I'm like, what do you want? Maybe a cracker? I feel like that's the only other thing I can think of.
Maybe. What else are we putting spinach dip on, y'all? Okay, tortilla chips is edging over. They're edging over.
I'm on to the good side.
Yeah, it's something about that crunchy quality. But then also for the bread, it's really savory. It feels like a meal and not so much a snack. So like I can definitely understand the pros and cons and the yays and nays. I get it.
I like y'all how y'all think. This is interesting. Now, next time I make it, I might just do some toasted bread. But I'm a tortilla lover again, and maybe that's just what I'm used to. What I was growing up eating at the restaurants. But
well, the tortilla is one today, so woo.
Again, it's all your preference. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever you prefer.
Here's the other. We got it. A baked potato.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a meal. That's a comfort Sunday meal.
Sure. Yes.
It's a good meal.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
All right. So we have our base, our creamy base. We have our spinach. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper in here just to flavor it. Again, we want this to be savory. Mm-hmm. We do have that coconut milk. I'm just going to add a pinch of salt because our cheese and our stock already has salt in it. A little bit of garlic powder. You can opt out for that if you're doing fresh garlic. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of paprika. And I'm going to mix it in. Then I'm going to add the cream cheese. I'm going to be ready to throw it in the oven or keep it going. So the thing about this, again, you can cook it straight on the stove. Just keep it like this. Or if you prefer, you can add it in the oven. Hopefully, for time purposes, we are able to just let it thicken up fully so that you guys can get the whole result of it. So that's why my heat is a little bit high now. All right, so we seasoned it up. I'm going to add a little bit of cream cheese. This is vegan, dairy-free cream cheese. I know y'all. So just like any other cream cheese, it came in like a box or a tub. I'm just trying to let you guys see it. So this is how it looks like. This is plain cream cheese. I mean, maybe you can get fancy and do like chive cream cheese or French onion. I don't know nothing about that with the vegan ones. But I just do a classic cream cheese, and I'm just moving it around so you guys can see, and then so that it can melt. And I'm probably going to
move it around the side of the pan.
Yep.
Okay. I'm peeping the technique. I'm learning some things.
Yeah, and I'm actually using a little spatula. I love to use spatulas when I'm cooking in my cast iron so it doesn't scrape it up. Especially for something like this, you're moving everything around. This is a great addition. You can use a wooden one. And you can use something like this. I think it's called just a little spatula.
Yeah, and that's the one we would normally use for cake. And see, my fear would be that I'm going to burn it.
No. So, I mean, you can. You definitely can. Sorry, y'all, just doing it with one hand. You definitely can burn it, but that's being a chef. When you cook, when you're in your chef mode in the kitchen, you do have to have your eyes on everything at all times. Okay. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't burn stuff. It happens.
Well, as a complete novice, please know I've gone through a couple of pans and spatulas.
And honestly, that's one of the things I do love about cast irons. Stainless steel is great too, but when you're using other pans, it's easier to burn. Something like a cast iron, if you burn it, like it's meant to be burned, and you can clean it very effectively.
Okay.
Taste that just a little bit.
Hey, can we use baby kale in this recipe? You think it'll still be pretty good?
Oh, I do think that it will be great. You can use collards, kale. I would just say, rule of thumb, you just want to chop everything really finely.
Okay, because kale's taste is a little heavier than spinach to me.
So if you're doing kale, I would recommend like super blanching it and season it with like salt and pepper before you add it in here. Just so you can have that true flavor that you're looking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we're going, we're moving. Again, things are pretty high just based on our time. I'm gonna add a little bit more pepper in here. I'm a pepper girl. I like my things to be very smoky.
So speaking of smoky, would smoked paprika be pretty good in this too?
Yes, I actually did sneak in a little bit in here. I'm gonna add some more. That was originally on the recipe. Again, that's the fun thing about cooking. You can add and take away as you see fit. Maybe you don't want a little heat and smoky. Maybe you do.
Gotcha. We're also adding maybe some Swiss chard. Might be good for this too.
Some Swiss chard.
Yeah.
Some you can maybe do like sweet potato leaves. I think this recipe is super cool because you can kind of like use whatever is in season and whatever you have on stock.
Nice.
But yeah, I would just recommend, again, if it's something hearty like kale, I would maybe use like Lucento kale or Dino kale just to like finally chop it up and blanch it with like salt and pepper just to give it a little bit of flavor before you add it to everything.
Okay. And chard is pretty hearty too. So it's the same kind of cycle with the same kind of. Okay.
Just a little bit of prep work before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So I turned it down. This is starting to thicken and up. For time's sake, I might just add a little bit of cornstarch mixture in here just so you guys can see it thicken up and we can put it in the oven for a few seconds or a few minutes. But when you have more time and you're at home, you can make this. You see how it's just slowing down. You just want to let it reduce and thicken up a little bit. So while we let it thicken up, I'm going to put the top on. That's always a good trick. My heat is on low. And I'm just going to cut our tortillas. And we're going to come back to this. And I'll let you guys let me know if we want to put it in the oven or not. So we'll be back. Okay. So give me a quick second. I'm about to shift my perspective. 1 second.
Okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. This has been such an interesting recipe because it makes you think about all the different ways that you can modify it and personalize it for what you like, right? Like even down to where you're going to put the spinach dip. So we have folks who's going to put their spinach dip on crackers and on veggies and on a sandwich, right? It can be used really well on a spread. And even folks that will make their own veggie broth and say, okay, well, I can make my own veggie broth from some saved veggie scraps. That's incredible. You're thinking about what do I already have in the kitchen? What have I already harvested, for my gardeners in the chat? What's already in season? Do I have some sweet potatoes that I might be able to take some of the greens from? So this is pretty fantastic. Thank you, Kendra. Really enjoying it.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. And that's why I really love to cook because, like you said, you can switch it up. You can add what you prefer versus what somebody recommends. Maybe your body does not like Swiss chard, but maybe your body loves kale. You can do that. Maybe you have the time to make your own veggie broth, and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I prefer to use gluten-free items, and so for that, I was prematurely. So this is a gluten-free tortilla. I had already cut it, and this is how we're going to make our tortilla chips. I'm just going to talk you guys through it. So firstly, we are going to get our tortillas. Again, you can use flour, regular flour. You can use non-gluten-free flour or vegan flour tortillas, or even non-grain tortillas, whatever you prefer. Again, that's all we're about. So first things first, you just want to cut it up into little triangles. I'm going to talk you guys through it just for time purpose. And so we have our traditional tortilla that came in a circle, and I'm just cutting it in little triangles like a little pizza. And what we're going to do is toss it in some olive oil and some pepper, salt and pepper, and we're going to put it in the oven. And I'm going to use a little sheet tray. This is like a little kitchen staple that I love to use when I'm roasting or cooking anything in the oven. So I'm going to show you guys. I'm just going to lay the tortillas. Ooh, can you see? You guys see? Okay. So I'm going to lay them on here. And honestly, this is really, really simple and basic way to make tortilla chips. This is really, really cost efficient and cheap. I love to do this, especially when I don't want to go back to the store and I have everything else I need. If I have a tortilla, I try to keep some in here. I'm just going to throw it in the oven. So I'm going to show you guys how I'm just going to season it. So this is just a little bowl. I'm going to put it in, all the tortillas in there. I'm going to grab the olive oil or whatever oil you have. Put a little bit of salt.
Yeah, I have a question about the oils.
Yes. This is such a controversial topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
So, okay, well, wait a minute. Before I ask the question about the oils, let me ask the question about flour. So, can we use flour instead of gluten-free, like the corn tortillas, and like with the oil and
Absolutely.
cream?
I honestly believe that the corn flour or regular flour will be better. Again,
Okay.
this is just my diet restriction. I just don't do gluten.
Okay.
Um, but I do love a good corn tortilla.
Okay.
So really quick, also everything is coated in salt and pepper and oil, and I'm just laying it on the baking sheet.
Perfect. So, would grapeseed oil work for this, or sunflower oil? Is it, well, let me ask this. Is there any oil we should stay away from when
I would say we should stay away from canola. In this case, canola oil, vegetable oil. We don't want like a hearty, thick oil because they're going to crisp up in the oven, and we're not deep frying. So you can make this recipe by deep frying it on the stove,
okay.
but we're keeping it light and simple by putting it in the oven, and that leaves us time to focus on all the other things that we're doing in the kitchen. So these are our tortillas. Again, they're gluten-free, so I know it may look a little thin or something like that, but it gets the job done. And I'm going to put it in the oven for a few minutes, probably like 7 minutes, no more than 10 minutes at all. It's going to cook up. And because it is gluten-free, I think it cooks a little bit quicker. But corn tortilla will typically take the same time as well.
And it doesn't matter that they're stacked. It's okay.
Yeah, I think for this case, because they're so thin, it's fine. And even if not, you just want to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
So maybe midway, or maybe you just always peek through the oven to make sure they're not like overly sticking. But that's the fun thing about tortillas and just like flour products in general. They can stand on their own and still cook through and like cook up. But yeah, maybe you prefer to have a bigger baking sheet so that everything can have its own area. I find that I still enjoy it when it's just like this.
Oh, great.
Great. Right. So now we have about 15 minutes left. So I'm gonna open up this pan. Y'all ready? Ready?
We're ready.
All right. So we have everything marinated together. So I do think that I added just a little bit of too much coconut milk. And that's fine. So what I'm gonna do really quick is on the slide. That's where you gotta just be on your toes with cooking. I'm gonna add a little bit of cornstarch and water slurry. Now you can add flour to thicken it up. You can add chickpea flour, regular flour, whatever you prefer.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do that really quick for time purposes so that you guys can see how everything turns out.
I can imagine that it smells heavenly in there. Oh my gosh. Just thinking about when you cut up the garlic and the veggies and the veggie broth and all of the different spices that are happening right now.
It does smell really good. It just smells like a cold fall day. Even though it's not that, well, I'm in DC. I don't think it's too cold right now. But yeah, it does just smell really, really good.
Yeah.
Creamy.
Yeah.
I love the spinach taste. So yeah. So I just added a little bit of cornstarch. I'm gonna add some water in here, and we're just gonna mix that up. I'm sure some of you guys are really familiar with like a cornstarch slurry. Again, you can do this with specific flours. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's just a little too runny for my liking, and I don't know if we'll have enough time to put it in the oven and let it do its thing, and that's totally fine. So I'm just adding it in, mixing it in, and I'll show you guys the camera as well.
Okay. And what temperature are the chips on right now for the oven?
So the oven is on 400.
Okay.
Yep. Just put them in on the top rack, and I just added my thickening agent to the spinach dip. It looks really good.
Okay.
Yep. So coming together.
Now let's say that we put the dip in the oven. About how long would it take to thicken it? And like, will we change the temperature?
Yeah, I would keep it on high. I would keep it probably on 400,
Mm-hmm.
just to let it bind all together. And I would cook it for about 10 minutes and add
Okay.
some cheese on top.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll add some to the oven just so you guys can see it. It might just be at the very end of our demonstration, but that's fine because you guys have the
Okay.
recipe and can recreate this dish.
Yeah. Look at the spinach just hanging off of it. Oh, it's so, oh my gosh. It's so green. It's so beautiful. I can't wait. I can't wait. Kendra, you're in DC, right? If I suddenly show up.
Yes, let me know. Yes, I'm in.
Oh, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Again, you don't have to use the oven piece. You can definitely keep it on the stove and just take your time with cooking it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this recipe. There's alternative ways in every way that you make this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, you guys can see it is thickening up.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna add a little bit more. I'm gonna add some cheese on top, and then I'm gonna put it in the oven until we're done.
Okay.
And if you really want to make it nice and thick and creamy, you can add it on broil after you cook it for some time. And add some more cheese on top.
Mm-hmm.
But that will set it off. So this is enough for, it's just me. So this is enough. And as you can see, I'm gonna just let this go. And I'll show you at the end too. So I'm gonna just put it down to about 4. And that cornstarch slurry is thickening it up. I'm gonna put the other one, and you guys will see. So maybe you'll see which method you prefer. The top back on.
I learned my lesson. Next time I will not be in this office. I will be in my kitchen, my screen up, ready.
Yes.
Because this looks incredible. I am ready for lunch.
Me too, Courtney. This is my breakfast and my lunch, so I'm excited about it.
Yes. Folks in the chat, like, this looks so good, I almost licked my screen. It's true. It's true.
Again, I'm using a cast iron to put in the oven, and I just put some cheese on top. Well, it's a little soupy, but don't you worry. That's why we have it on high heat. Grab a little, sorry, one hand in it.
It's all right.
Put this in the oven. Put it up top with these chips. Let's take a look at the chips. Okay, they're doing something. They're getting there. Spinach dip on the top rack.
And then speaking of those chips, maybe adding chili powder if you were eating them by themselves, or
oh yeah, adding chili powder to the chips would be great.
Yeah.
Adding garlic, fresh garlic to it would be great. Sorry y'all, I should have kept it on the. Wait.
No, but we can still hear you.
Okay. I should have kept it on the tripod. But yeah, you can, if you don't want the spinach dip to be a little bit smoky or flavorful like that, you can add it on the chips. You can also do paprika on the chips as well. So any smoky pepper that you want will be really, really great for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Any more questions? Any questions?
So we're thinking, like, now that everything is simmering and we actually have time to think about cleanup. What recommendations would you have, like, for cleaning this cast iron?
Oh, so okay, I'm not an expert. Don't come on my neck if you know some other stuff. Put it in the chat. But what I do is warm water, a little bit of soap. I'll use something that has like a good ridge where I can scrape, and then I clean it out, pat it dry, and then I'll put some oil in it to season it back up. And then I'll wipe the oil with like a paper towel so that it can be nice and cleaned and moisturized for the next run of whatever we're cooking.
Okay. Because I've always heard about, you don't completely clean a cast iron, and you kind of got to. I know some people that clean it, put the oil back on it, and then they bake it again with nothing in it. I mean,
I've done that too.
some real life routines going on.
Yeah, I would love to get better skilled at cleaning my cast iron, but I have done it where I lightly clean it, oil it, and then put it in the oven on like a high temperature to just let it like cook and soak up the oil and everything.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, I need a little bit more years in my cast iron bag to really be the expert of that. But yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I think with all of the different ways that folks do it, once again, you find the way that works best for your cooking style, for the food that you prepare. I can imagine that it will be a little different in a vegan's kitchen than in the kitchen of one who makes like bacon all the time, right? Like I can imagine it might be a little different routine. And there's a question here about your veggie broth. How did you get such a thick veggie broth?
I did not make this veggie broth. It comes in a paste already, which I appreciate because they tell you to just add liquid to it, and that's how you use it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. But if I make veggie broth, it's loose. It's just like how you would buy it if it's in the carton. And I would just keep it like that. But I prefer this. It's more flavored, and it's not so much other ingredients. Like it's literally just veggie based.
Yeah. So this idea of when you use a paste, it kind of allows you to control the thickness. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah, because we do have some folks in the chat that just make their own. They just save it and wait. And now, because I'm a novice, I'm going to ask a silly question. With broth, right? Can you make your own broth, but then, like you did, add a thickening agent?
You can. Yeah, I think that just depends on what type of, like, what you're trying to make. If you want it to be loose,
okay,
maybe not add the thickening agent. If you want it to be a little bit thicker, I would definitely add it. And I've done that before. I've just used liquid veggie broth and added like maybe some chickpea flour and water to make like a slurry. Thicken it up.
Yeah. We thickening up over there.
It is.
Oh boy.
I'm showing y'all how the texture is changing. I'm so excited for y'all to make this. Let me get the other spoon.
How do you resist not just touching the spatula and at least just tasting it?
I think because I'm on camera. I think it's just because I'm on camera.
Because that would have been my go-to. As soon as that spatula came out of that pot, I would have my hands in it. And see, this is why we have Thanksgiving at my mom's. They're like, Courtney done ate half the food before it got.
Sometimes I do that, and I'm like, you ain't gonna have no more food.
That's for sure. Oh, we got a good recommendation for pot washing.
Yes, let me know. What is it?
Rinse it with warm water, and then they scrub it with coarse salt.
Wait, what?
Rinse it with warm water, and then scrub it with coarse salt. Then rinse it again and oil it. So it sounds like there's no soap involved.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is very effective.
All
right. Almost at the end. Give y'all a little sneak peek of our chips.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it's gluten-free, so it looks a little different when it cooks.
Okay.
But it gets the.
Oh, but listen to how they dropped in the pan. You can see they're crispy. Oh, they're crispy and nice. Oh yeah. If I had a rubric for the perfect like pita tortilla chip, that crispy sound, like when I break it, will be on there. It's on there. It's on there. That's how I know I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yep. So for time purposes, I know sometimes with cooking, you just need more time. So for this, honestly, I would let it go for about another 7 minutes. I know we're at the end of almost at the end of our demonstration, but I want you guys to notice how the texture shift it.
Yeah.
See how you see those little bubbles in there? That means that it's thickening up. It's where you want it to be. And
Show
so
us a
maybe
little bit more.
up here.
Kendra, bring it down just a little bit so we can see a little bit more of the pot. Oh yeah. Almost. We're about half.
Up here. Maybe you do. That's fine. Personally, I don't know. I just want mine a little bit thicker, but it's really no right or wrong. It's your preference. And so I am going to put some in this little bowl with the chips. I'm gonna taste test it for y'all.
Okay.
So excited for this. Ooh, nice and creamy.
Man, is this like one of those things where it's really good the first day, but on the second day,
yes.
it's the most amazing?
This is definitely a second day or later in the day meal that will just be way better.
Yeah.
So again, I know it looks a little runny here, but we already know that we want it to be a little bit more thicker. That's fine. I know you guys will make it and get back to me on how thick and creamy it is. I'm going to show you. Maybe I should turn the camera over. All right.
So here you are. Yep. All
right.
right.
You guys hear that crunch?
Yes. And we're all jealous, just so you know.
I'm going to dip it.
We're all jealous. Kendra, we just really, oh man. See, straight from the pot. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm just going to go right here.
I mean, it's a dangerous game, but
it truly is.
I
I'm not going to put myself on camera eating this hot chip with the spinach dip, but you guys get the picture.
Well, Kendra, we want to thank you so much for this demonstration. Thank you for all of the tips that you've given us about vegetable broth, the oils, the different spices, just how to have a fantastic and fun life of vegan and dairy-free food. It is delicious. And so thank you all also for attending today. I loved hanging out with you all. Shout out to Grace. Thank you so much for being here too. To learn about our future online program offerings, please visit usbg.gov/programs. If you're local to the DC area, come on by the garden, right? Come see us. And then also know you'll receive a brief survey in your inbox for this program. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your community. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. Make sure you follow Kendra.